Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the HeadSpace for Entrepreneurs podcast. My name is Rivers Corbett. I'm your host, and I'm so lucky I get to hang out with amazing entrepreneurs from around the planet. And today's guest is no exception. But before we talk to Laura, I want to just thank our sponsor, which is Deep Work Sprints. Deep Work Sprints really has found the magic behind bringing people together on a daily basis with a key focus on getting work done over 100-minute time period. May sound complicated to you, but the whole methodology is very powerful. I've been doing it for close to 7 months now, and my guest today has been doing it longer. And I can honestly say it's had a huge impact on my business, even after being an entrepreneur for 20 plus years. So all you have to do is go to deepworksprints.com and you can check out more about what they're doing, and make sure you say when you're looking for possibly joining us, you put in the words Headspace for Entrepreneurs into the coupon code, and they're going to send you $50 as part of that whole journey. So deepworksprints.com. We're now going to head to Laura Banks. Now, Laura is an incredible intuitive entrepreneur. And so before we get going, Laura, welcome to the Headspace for Entrepreneurs podcast.
Oh, thanks for having me, Rivers. I'm really excited about chatting with you today.
Yeah, well, we've had some great chats up to this point. So you didn't know that this was all part of previewing, putting you through some dress rehearsal, whether or not you actually would qualify.
I've been vetted.
Yes, that's, you have been vetted. And all good things are going to come from that. So, today's conversation is going to be a fireside chat. And the first piece is, ladies and gentlemen, Laura is in South Africa right now, and a Canadian. She's an expat in South Africa. Can you talk about what are you doing in Africa let's not get into your profession yet. Let's get into Laura Banks and your husband, John, as to why did you end up in South Africa? It's a cool journey as an individual, but also as a entrepreneur, being able to work anywhere, anytime.
Yeah, well, that's part of it. And part of the reason why I'm here is professional, but we can kind of get into that a little bit later to honor that intention. So I love travel. I love being abroad. I love experiencing different cultures and being immersed into them. And so one of the intentions of myself and John, my co-founder and husband,
Yes.
we were really interested in creating our lives around, being nomadic or being semi-nomadic. And so we kind of threw a dart at the map, if you will.
No way. Did you really throw the dart?
Not literally. We had a few different locales pinned, and this was one of them because we're avid rock climbers.
Yes.
And there's lots of amazing rock climbing here.
Yes.
There's mountains galore, and we had heard really a lot of good things. In addition to an opportunity that opened up for me to work with a Canadian charity that operates all throughout Africa and the Middle East. So It was kind of like a win-win-win for all the boxes, professionally, personally, adventure-wise.
But you had originally chosen Thailand, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, Thailand is a place that is dear to my heart. I am a avid Vipassana meditator, and Buddhist tradition is rich and palpable in Thailand. And so I love the Buddhist culture and I love the people. And I mean, who doesn't love Thai food? Personally, I love it. So,
I love Thai food, absolutely.
We had spent 3 months there, and one of the reasons why we didn't end up there was, running a business where your primary focus is North America is a bit tricky with the time zone. So
yes.
Yeah, we landed in the middle of the world versus the other side.
Good for you. Okay, so let's kind of back to Canada. I mean, your journey is all about leadership,
Mm-hmm.
and leadership, particularly, and filling that void of startup entrepreneurs. And I like to say startup entrepreneurs are those that are in the first 5 years of their journey, not the first 5 minutes. And
Right.
I don't know how you feel about this, but it's kind of like, well, somebody decides to get some business cards and all of a sudden they're an entrepreneur. It just doesn't fit,
Right.
and so it takes about 5 years to really learn the game of it. But you and John have really created an organization. It's called Level 7 Leadership, which you didn't have when you came to South Africa. So let's kind of zero back. What is that area that you play in, and what was the pivot point that you said that's even started before you started to play in the game? You said, this is my space. What was that part of your journey? You said, that's my space. That's where I want to go take a little bit of a journey on.
Yes, such a cool question. So, and really rich answer. So, John and I are co-founders of Level 7 Leadership, and we support social impact entrepreneurs. So, entrepreneurs making a difference in communities with their business model. And we help them develop leadership skills and build more resilience so that they can take on the world's to-do list with less
Yes,
burnout.
right.
Um, and so we had individually kind of been working with entrepreneurs. I specialize in difficult transitions. That's where I kind of started my coaching journey.
Oh
And it
yeah, right.
turns and so many transitions from, terrible workplaces to freedom involve entrepreneurship. And so I
Mm.
ended up starting out with guiding people through early stage business development, and John was doing similar things. Um, Through that, something that had been kind of a knot, one of those things in your gut and heart that you can't really ignore. One of the things that bothers me about the personal development industry is that it really is accessible to people with money. Like, it's a very exclusive kind of industry.
Mm.
And that was something that had always bothered me, even in becoming a coach and coming down this path. And I was speaking to that with a mentor of mine who happens to be the VP of strategy for Digital Opportunity Trust. His name's Tony Vetter, and we had
Mm.
conversations about coaching and how incredible it is to have a partner to bounce ideas off of and to help you develop your thinking, your creativity, help you shift your mindset around certain, blocks that might be keeping you from moving forward. And in those preliminary conversations, he started a light started going off for him in his mind, for his organization. So he actually supports his organization, Digital Opportunity Trust, supports primarily females across Africa and the Middle East
Yes.
to become social entrepreneurs through education programs and mentorship. But they had a 90% dropout rate, and this was shocking to me. And they had identified that there was kind of a gap in the service that they were providing these entrepreneurs. Mentorship's
Mm-hmm.
fairly helpful, education's really helpful, but there was a focus on like what we call like business acumen. So how to make a pitch, how to
Mm.
create a minimum viable product,
Mm.
et cetera, right? But what was really getting in the way most of the time was this mindset piece, this confidence piece, this, how to approach conflict in their organizations piece, right? The
Mm-hmm.
basic leadership skills. Actually, they're not basic leadership skills, they're just very important leadership skills
Right, right.
that were not being fostered or nurtured, right? And so that's kind of where I came in. That's why I'm in South Africa. We developed a coaching program that is now in its second cohort. It was wildly successful. The pilot was well received by the
Wait a minute.
entrepreneur.
Whoa, Laura, come on.
Oh.
That's why we came to South Africa. Developed this coaching program. No, you're leaving out details, my friend. You don't just say, here I am, customs officers. No, there was something that brought you there, first of all, to establish this organization, and you created the details around it. And that's what brought you there, right? And I remember talking to you at that point in time. You actually were trying to, before you even got the deal you have now, you were saying, I'm just kind of playing in this space, and I don't want to be the space. I want to train the space, if I remember correctly. Is that what happened?
Yeah. So, we had kind of begun to notice a gap in how entrepreneurs kind of across the board are supported.
Yes.
So this organization DOT had identified this gap, and it was really impactful creating this program. But as we started talking to networking, you're expanding your network, you're having discovery calls, etc. And in those conversations with people outside of DOT's network, we actually very quickly realized, myself and John, that this wasn't a gap just in the organization. It was actually a gap in the industry.
Right.
We
the
focus. Yeah, exactly. We focus on
and not just in South Africa either. I'm sorry to interrupt, but not just in South Africa either. This is a global issue.
It's a global issue. And we were really excited, to be honest. Like, wow, like developing our own personal resilience and like self-leadership and leadership skills made such a huge difference in our ability to influence people, to make the sales, to be fearless in the face of creating a business during a pandemic. Like all of those things really do matter, and they're ignored. That's why 83% of social impact businesses fail in the first 3 years of business.
Can I stop you there for a sec, Laura? You said how many? What percentage did you say again?
83%, and I think it's higher, but we're going with that number because we saw
that's pretty high.
Written.
But
yeah,
and so you hear the stories of non-social impact businesses going through that. So that number focuses on you because that's your niche, that's your lane. But is it fair to say that other ones go through the same thing because of the lack of leadership?
Yeah, absolutely. And we've heard time and time again from speaking with entrepreneurs in the social impact space and not, that a common occurrence for them is that they join an accelerator, they have all this momentum, and after they leave the program, it's like a flop, right?
Yeah.
And so right. So it's like, how do you develop that resilience piece, not only in the early stages, but kind of throughout a leader's journey through building, scaling, and maintaining a business, right?
Yes. Well, I agree with you. Those spaces are not being addressed, and I applaud you and John for discovering that sooner rather than later because of all kinds of reasons. But why do you think? I always say you win the game of business when you zag when everybody else zigs. You have discovered, or maybe you're the first ones to discover and actually act on it, this whole aspect of lack of leadership skills in that incubator, accelerator space. Why do you think that these organizations around the planet, because I would agree that the only ones I have some sense of connection with are Canadian, but it happens all the time with me. And so why do you think that's the case? Why don't they address those issues?
That's a really deep question, Rivers, and I think it's kind of.
You'd be the type of person that could answer it, though, Laura.
I actually think it's a systemic issue in the way that we approach problems as human beings. So we look at reactive solutions that kind of are band-aid solutions. So we tend to throw resources at a problem to kind of make it go away. And you're seeing this with even just, climate change and tech innovation. It's like, all we need to do is throw more money at the problem and it's going to be fixed. But
Right.
what's really missing is, well, what's at the core of that issue, right?
Yeah.
And at the core of businesses failing, there's a multitude of things. Obviously, there's luck involved. There's, solid business planning. There's resilience building, like as a business specifically. But there's also a mindset piece that isn't being addressed for founders. And up until now, really, I think COVID has really shifted the conversation around this. But up until now, entrepreneurship was very much a kind of, you're the leader, you're strong, like grin and bear it, kind of like push through the tough times and you'll make it, right? And there's a piece there that, if you focus on developing your core energy and how you're showing up, as you know, things can unfold almost like magic. It's not magic, by the way, but it is magical. When you focus on your core mindset, your core energy, what your attitude is, things actually unfold organically in such a way that, is sometimes inexplainable. But when you can access your intuition, that's a huge piece for lots of business leaders. It allows you to create things with more ease. But that is so woo for people, right? It's like,
yeah, it is woo.
Right? Woo. So it's like, so we ignore the woo. And
you didn't say poo, you said woo, right?
That's right. So it's a general ignorance of the woo, I guess. We ignore that, and there's something to it. I really believe there is something to it.
Well, and you've touched on a few things. One that subconsciously you brought it to me, but the first one, I love the fact that you've reinforced again that COVID is just kind of one of my favorite books of all times. It's one of the toughest to read, but by the way, if you haven't read it, it's a rite of passage, in my opinion, for entrepreneurs. It's called Atlas Shrugged by Ayn Rand. And that's what I feel has happened, is that Atlas has shrugged and shook up the world and has said the way your sense of normality has now changed. So people, as you say, are much more open to the woo and the poo to really explore how we can move to the next level, because it's really unknown, and all those sense of habits are now gone for those that are forward thinkers. So I think, and that's the type of people that you want to connect with. So that's just a reflection on what you just said. So, but the other part I'm going to ask you, and it's a gender-based question, do you think that woo exists because a lot of people that were in those decision-making processes to involve the woo, not involve the woo, but involve the more the qualitative skills for men?
Oh, you caught me.
It's hard for me to ask that question, by the way, because I'm a believer that entrepreneurship is a village, and I hate one of the awards I hate the most is the Woman Entrepreneur of the Year, because what it does, it doesn't put that person, in my opinion, against everybody else in the entrepreneur community. It minimizes their true value and success, and that's just, maybe that's a debate over a few beers, but so to even have a gender-based question is weird for me. But I think that's probably one of the reasons. It's the guys are saying, oh, we don't talk about that stuff, we don't deal with that stuff, don't suck it up, buttercup.
Yeah. And honestly, I've spoken to a lot of female entrepreneurs and also entrepreneurs of color, and especially in kind of incubator and accelerator programs, a lot of people don't even apply to them because they're not inclusive. It's like, you know, Rivers, I love you, but it's like a bunch of white guys telling them what to do. And that's what I love about coaching, is that coaching is really an inquiry-based modality. So as a coach, I'm not the expert. Like a mentor is an expert in their field and they have lots of experience in developing businesses of the sort, right?
Right.
I'm really good at asking questions, having you find the answers, having you better understand your mindset so that you can think creatively and innovatively about how you want to move into, you know, the next stage of your project. Whereas, you know, so there's no influence on, or there's very little influence on my part. I can give suggestions that are, you know, detached from any outcome, but ultimately the primary focus is on having that individual find their own solutions. And that's why coaching is the modality of the future. And that's why the industry is growing exponentially, because it really taps into the human's creative potential. I just freaking love it, Rivers. It's amazing.
So, well, I remember when I first had our first, you know, friendship, getting to know each other conversation. I really connected with your deeper thought. I'm a deep thoughts guy, and I love the guiding people on so that they come up with a solution, not me. And then you had a conversation with my daughter too, by the way, which was very impactful on her. And thank you for doing that.
Oh,
And
you're
so,
welcome.
yeah, I mean, it's yeah, she is sweet. She's lovely. And so John, your husband, he tells me that he's the biz development guy in the relationship. Is that true?
Yeah, he's quite skilled at sales conversations.
Yeah. So okay, and that's fine, and which is great, because I want to validate that before I say to my next question, because you're going to say, wait a minute, I'm the biz dev person. What's he talking about? So when he's out, I've given him a couple of leads, some really good leads, and he's going to follow up, and I know you know, his integrity and your integrity will bring great credibility to that referral. So he's going to talk to my buddy Rick and my friend Kayla. And what's kind of that initial conversation? How's that laid out so that people move past the woo to, hey, this is incredibly important information that I want to explore it more. Can you talk about that stage of your business development?
Yeah, it's really cool because our conversations go something like this. We talk about, kind of have a conversation exactly like we just had, where we speak on, you know, how we have been focusing on business acumen, right? Developing business acumen in social founders, or founders, period. And
right.
every single person we've spoken to who is an entrepreneur has had the experience of their inner critic coming to dinner, or has had the experience of getting stopped by, you know, feeling like an imposter on a sales call.
Imposter syndrome. Yep.
Right. So it's like, when we actually call out that those are skills that can be mastered through developing your self-leadership.
Yes.
It makes so much sense to people, right? It's almost like, yeah, that is exactly what people deal with. And that's why people are failing at business in the early stages, right?
Yes.
And so it makes a lot of sense for anyone who's been on the entrepreneurial journey. The idea kind of sells itself, to be honest. We're just pointing out stuff that people haven't put words to, right? Which is the best kind of sales, because it's like, oh my God, I feel so gotten, right? It's not even, I don't even consider it a sales conversation. It's just,
right. Yeah, that's so cool. So, so it's a program. Is it a, you know, buy a book? Is it a
okay. So what's the format?
Tell us what's the value prop. So I understand the value proposition. So how do you deliver the value proposition to my friend Larry, who runs Planet Hatch in Fredericton, New Brunswick, the incubator system there?
Sure, yeah. So we partner with accelerators and incubators. This is one of like kind of our strategies, I guess. So we partner with them to, you know, start introducing, start introducing more training and development around building leadership skills for their entrepreneurs. And some of those spaces have money to hire coaches that can support entrepreneurs in group programs or one-on-one. Some of them don't. So the group programs that we are, the group programs that we're hired for, or the people that that support us through funding, we develop customized programs for their entrepreneurs in the area that their entrepreneur wants to focus on most. So we deliver programs in 4 different areas, one being just, basic road mapping for their business, how do they want to move forward, what's blocking them. Then there's time management and organization. Some people are still not using their calendars, Rivers. Like some people aren't managing to-do lists. Like it's like, things that really make a difference that, maybe people haven't thought about before. And then kind of in the later stages, that's like early, right? And then in the later stages, we talk about building communication and culture in their organizations, and then influence and presence, which kind of deals with imposter syndrome and building that confidence in investor meetings, et cetera, et cetera. So we kind of tackle 4 different areas, but all of those areas funnel into one basic concept, which is that mindset piece that I call it energy, actually, because it's not only the mind that is influencing the way that you're showing up, your attitude, but it's also actually your body. And I could probably do a whole TED talk on that, but your body holds patterns from your existence, from your childhood, but also beyond, that are actually influencing your mind. And so we go to work on that core piece to really shift and transform the way people are showing up in their businesses and in their lives. And we do that through group coaching and one-on-one coaching. So we work right now with one-on-one with a lot of entrepreneurs, kind of like an executive coach would. I guess like we're really supporting people with executive coaching for startup entrepreneurs, which doesn't really exist right now. So we work one-on-one with people anywhere between 3 to 12 months, depending on what they want to work on.
Is there an alumni program after they're done?
We are actually, so you're jumping ahead a little bit. We are actually looking to build a community of social impact entrepreneurs. I mean, I'm so inspired by Deep Work Sprints. I mean, another plug for your sponsor here, but wow, just like the support networks are so important. And I don't think that entrepreneurs should or can function without, knowing that other people are in this journey alongside them, even if they're running different businesses. Right.
Good for you. Yeah. Well, there's a couple of beefs that I have with accelerators, incubators, but one of them is the fact is that they bring the kids up, they bring them in at kindergarten and they kick them out to the curb at grade 2 and say, go figure it out. And there's no ability for them to fall back on the support mechanisms that you're talking about. So again, such an obvious value offering that is crazy that it becomes a differentiator on business model. Yeah, it's just nuts.
It's almost outrageous.
Yeah, it's just nuts. Absolutely nuts. And I again, dealing with very smart people, but I think it's those zag thinkers, which there's now a lot more coming along that allow them to do that. So I got some other questions, but I want to pivot here for a sec. But I want to give respect to to what you guys are doing with level 7 leadership. How somebody's diving in now, they're listening, they want to do some follow-up with you and level 7. What's the best way to do that?
Yeah, you can check us out at level7, the number 7.is. And we're actually going to be launching a podcast. So John currently runs the Mindful Communication podcast, and it's one of the most popular communication podcasts in the world. So we are actually pivoting that podcast, and we're naming it The Leadership Gap. And I think you are one of the people who helped me name that. So thank you, Rivers.
You're welcome. Even if I didn't, I'm going to take the credit. You got it. It's recorded. No, you didn't, Blake Flishmiger. It was me.
Yeah, so you can check us out in the new year on the Leadership Gap podcast.
Love it. Love it. Thank you. So you and John are doing two things that are quite interesting as a couple. The first thing is that you are working remotely. You are really doing what I am creating with my new business, Cheftorial, which is to work anywhere, anytime. Can you talk about that journey of doing that? Because not only are your customers in South Africa, but according to my last social conversation with John, a lot of your customers are coming from the United States. So can you talk about time zone difference? It really hacks more than anything. Give us a couple of hacks that are pretty important in that process.
Okay, so the first hack is you have to absolutely be in love with what you do, because right now it's 8:42 p.m. I don't consider this work, but I have had calls. I have had, sales conversations at like 8:30 p.m. and I've had, had been going since 8:30 a.m. Right. So that's one thing. You also need to be like, if you're working from anywhere and you've chosen the place that you're working from, enjoy the frickin' place. Right.
Right.
There's a lot of digital nomads that like go to a place and then like work the whole time. So we make an effort to get out a lot. We take weekends off, which is really, unheard of for startup entrepreneurs, but here we are. But in terms of like logistics, people are pretty understanding of like, I can't speak after 3 p.m. Right. So we have good systems in place. I have, with time zones, I have a little time zone converter kind of extension on my Chrome. I am terrible with math, Rivers, especially time zone math. If you're working.
Why I'm laughing is because, Laura, I still put up my hands to say left and right. I still have to put my hands in the air to figure out which one is left and which one is right. So I get it. It is what it is, right?
Yeah. And I would say that if you're already working remotely, it's probably not going to be that difficult to move somewhere else and run your business, right? As long as you give people a heads up that you can't be reachable after a certain time.
Yes.
People love it. They're like, wow, you're in South Africa. I want to talk to you. I feel it's almost like a boon for like networking.
Yeah, a little bit of a celebrityhood, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I love it. And it's there was something else that I was going to say about that. What was it? I can't remember.
One challenge we did have though is finding a workflow and workspace that works for us.
Right.
So that's why we don't move so often. Like we're stationed in Cape Town, and for the winter we might move somewhere else in South Africa, but that would be for like 6 months. So we're not like constantly bouncing around. I think for coaches, that's a difficult thing because we need the privacy for, one-on-one call, like confidential calls. All of those logistics need to be really, really well thought out, including like seamless internet, which can be difficult in a developing country. All of those things you got to really like look out for and plan. Yeah.
Love it. What about you two? hanging out with each other, and because the perception is like that's a recipe for disaster. Two people who have a great relationship personally now are going to go muck it all up by diving into the work world. But you said when I was telling you we were going to talk about that, you said we absolutely love it. So what's the formula for you two, and understanding it's an individual, it's a couple strategy. I get all that, but why does it work for you two?
Yeah, so I'll preface this by saying that we lived in a van together for a year.
I'll come back with that. It's no surprise.
So, we had already gone through the growing pains of stepping on each other's toes and like over communicating our needs, and now we're in the habit of over communicating our needs. I have to say, I know I fall back on this a lot, but my meditation practice really allows me to check in with myself, my attitude, my energy on a day-to-day basis, and understand like at what hours of today or which days do I feel particularly snappy, right?
Yes.
And I can give John a heads up. Okay, I'm feeling a little off today. Just so like I might be, bitchier than usual, pardon the language.
Yeah. Well, don't fucking say the word bitch on this podcast. No, it's all right. That's part of as entrepreneurs, we sometimes swear. As long as we don't get disrespectful about it, that's different. But it's okay to swear every now and then.
Yeah, so I would say, we are communication specialists, and we are highly aware of our own minds and energy. So that makes it super easy to understand when we might be getting defensive and attached to ideas versus when we need to kind of have conversations about, what we're holding on to and what needs to be let go. We actually don't ever fight. Like we don't, that's not a reality for us, which is like such a blessing that, two people have found partners like that who are like down to work on themselves.
It is a blessing. And what's interesting, of course, people say, oh, well, then there's a problem with the relationship if you don't fight. And I never understood that. It's like, no, it's peaceful. It's harmonious. It's loving. It's, it's really the BFF mode. To be able to find somebody that's like that with you, I think is a real, real gift. So,
I would say like a lot of people, the reason why drama exists, and this isn't an idea of mine, this is an idea of Jim Dethmers, who's part of the Conscious Leadership Group. He says people fight because it's fun, right? Like drama is so fun, right? So if you can find something that's more fun than drama, then you're not going to have any drama because there's no, like, you don't even want to engage in it because the other thing you're doing is more fun. And so that's kind of what we've created in our relationship.
Sure, it takes you away from the real fun. Very cool.
Exactly.
Very cool. So, so how does the rest of the day look now? It's 8:00. How does the rest of the day look for you after this non-business activity you're having? And yeah, you're right. I never consider it business, formal business when I'm talking to you and John. I remember telling him the last time we chatted, I'm so glad you didn't come on Deep Work Sprints that day because he did, and I get to know him more. So now I have two friends in South Africa. So it's very cool. So what's the rest of the night look like for you after this conversation?
Yeah, so I usually wind down around 8:30, and next I'm going to meditate my second hour, and then I'm going to read a freaking banger of a fantasy novel that I'm really enjoying right now.
Nice.
And then I'm gonna head to bed.
That's fabulous. That's really cool. Well, Laura, I could talk to you for hours. I really could, and I say that with great respect and admiration. You really, you talk about deep work sprints, but one of them again is the friendships that evolve out of this, and congratulations to you and to John for the journey you're on. I think it's a key part of helping entrepreneurs be successful. And for anybody listening into this, if you know an incubator or an accelerator program that could really tap into this, don't worry about getting a hold of them to say, oh, I could use you. There's a ton of us that are connected to these incubators and accelerators around the world. So, and that's how I brought the leads to the folks, including the connections to Startup Canada. So reach out and do that. And you talked about, level 7 connection. You're on LinkedIn also. Can people reach out and connect with you that way?
Oh my gosh, absolutely. We won't bite or do any weird sharky salesy things. I love having conversations with people. So even if you are curious or want to talk about this and get into the juice, oh, please do reach out. That would be my pleasure.
Yeah, and again, my daughter did it, and it was call it therapy, call it connection, call it universe, whatever. But she enjoyed it. Just out of the blue too. So yeah, I appreciate that. So Laura, thank you so much for being on the HeadSpace for Entrepreneurs podcast. We really appreciate it. And maybe, just maybe, since I vetted you for as long as this one, we're going to do maybe a part 2 with you guys. Maybe bring you on together. Wouldn't that be cool?
Oh my gosh, that would be so much fun. This is really fun, I got to say. Yes. And you warned me it would be fun.
Yes.
That would be great. That would be awesome.
That would be fun to do that. Okay, so let's plan on doing that. I'm going to make a note of that.
Okay, wonderful.
Say hi to your husband for me. And are you on Deep Work Sprints tomorrow?
I am not. No, I don't come to the 7 a.m. ones.
They're not doing the 7 a.m. ones this week.
Oh, really? They're on the 9:30 then.
9:30, yeah. So anyway.
Oh, maybe I will. Oh, is this part of the recording?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Yeah, that's what it is. Remember, Deep Work Sprints is a sponsor, so.
Okay,
anyway,
wonderful.
So let's hang up the recording, and then I'll hopefully see you tomorrow. And don't forget about your homework. I need some stuff sent my way. You're a rock star. Keep doing what you're doing now.
Thanks, Rivers. You too.
Thank you.
Bye.